What do you get if you spend billions of dollars to build a car? If your name is Fisker, the answer is bankruptcy. Twice. It's often said that there aren't any truly bad cars anymore. Over a century of constantly developing and iterating on how we build them has pretty much ironed out all the kinks by now. Well, I guess Fisker took that as a personal challenge and decided to make a car that was so bad, so buggy, and so downright dangerous that it sent billions of dollars up in smoke and literally destroyed the company. The Fisker Ocean didn't sound like a horrible idea, to be fair. It looked good, it felt like a smart play as a mid-priced electric SUV, was built in the same factory that makes the Mercedes G-Wagon, and it carried the name of the guy who designed some of the most beautiful cars of the last 25 years. But to paraphrase Liam Neeson, it takes a particular set of skills to turn that promising start into the utter catastrophe that followed. Bricked cars, billions lost, owner lawsuits, more recalls than a Ford, a broken promise to the Pope, and an overnight collapse that would put even the dumbest NFTs to shame. Seriously, I cannot stress enough how spectacular this failure was, how poorly run Fisker was, and how, honestly, we should have all seen this coming. So strap in as we head down the road to ruin and see how Henrik Fisker burned all his bridges and fooled the world. Henrik Fisker was a designer who had his Danish mitts on beautiful cars like the BMW Z8 and worked with Ian Callum on the Aston Martin V8 Vantage and the DB9. He even did the initial design work for the Tesla Model S, you know, back when it had a grille. With a design pedigree like that, it's no wonder he decided to strike out on his own way back in 2005 with a coach-built firm called Fisker Coach Build. Alright, listen, naming things is hard, and this is the first of 4 companies Fisker named after himself. You got Fisker Coach Build, Fisker Automotive, HF Design, and Fisker Inc. They say you can always trust somebody willing to put their name on the company, but they say a lot of things. From here, Fisker Coach Build made a few products designed off of existing BMW and Mercedes models, but when Henrik set out to make his own car, because why the hell not, the company changed to Fisker Automotive in 2007. You know, the year before the global economy fell off a cliff. His terrific timing is going to be an ongoing theme here. Fisker Automotive raised $1.4 billion with a B dollars from investors to make cars and got a loan from the US Department of Energy for over $500 million. And it's true that this was right before the Great Recession when money was being thrown around all willius-nillius, but that's still a lot of financial faith to put in a slick-talking Scandinavian and his dream. But art is worth what people are willing to pay, and Fisker's first real car was exactly that, art. This is the Fisker Karma. You line it up with other cars designed by HF, you can see a singular design that's been evolving and growing this whole time. It even evolved a grille that looks like a magician's facial hair. Motor Trend called it the most important car of the year in 2011 because not only was it eye-catching, it was also a plug-in hybrid, but not like the ones we know today. The Karma was what is known as a series hybrid, and a series hybrid uses an engine as a generator to charge a small battery, which powers electric motors, which drive the wheels. We talked about this recently in our video on Edison motors. Essentially, the gas engine runs at peak efficiency, and the direct drive motors still give you that EV torque. The best of both worlds, or so they thought. As Steve Jobs once said, people don't know what they want until you show it to them. And that's genuinely how I feel about our partner for today's video, Oslo Sleep. These little buddies right here are the Oslo Sleep Buds, a ridiculously comfortable pair of noise-masking earbuds that could be just the ticket to the best sleep of your life. 3 key things to know, okay? They pump a variety of science-backed sleep sounds into your ear holes with or without your phone. They've got a 10-hour battery life and super soft silicone construction so you can wear them all night, with a range of sizes if you have weirdly small ears like me. But the best part, and this has genuinely blown the minds of everyone I've talked to about it, you can use them as regular headphones to stream whatever sends you off to dreamland. Movies, TV, podcasts, hopefully not this video, because the Sleep Buds have built-in biometric sensors to detect when you fall asleep, pause whatever you're playing, and switch over to your chosen sleep sounds. Listen, we get a lot of stupid pitches to hawk things on the channel, but this isn't one of them. These things work. And like Stevie said, sometimes you just have to see something to realize it's what you've been missing. So get the best sleep of your life by scanning the QR code on screen, clicking the link in my description, or using the code TDRVE to get $10 off your pair of Oslo Sleep Buds. Speaking Speaking of what you've been missing, let's get back to the video. It turns out all the looks and tech in the world couldn't make the Karma a success. With a curb weight of over 5,000 pounds, the Karma looked a lot quicker than its 400 horsepower drivetrain actually made it. While series hybrids make a lot of sense now as a range-extended EV, in 2012 they were just kind of seen as a confusing half measure. Eco-minded buyers wanted electric range, and the Karma could only make about 30 to 50 miles on battery power alone, depending on who you ask. And it was expensive. Back in 2012, Karmas cost over $100,000. By the end of 2012, when their bills were due, Fisker had sold less than 2,000 cars, defaulting on $336.4 million that they owed back to the government. And that was the good news. The sole battery supplier for Fisker, A123 Systems, I guess they just picked the first name out of the phone book, had 2 back-to-back recalls on their batteries. A123 then went into bankruptcy itself, leaving the Karma and future Fisker models in development without a battery that fits. Then along came a little hurricane called Sandy. In 2012, Sandy ravaged the East Coast, including ports full of Fords and Toyotas waiting to be sold. And also, over 300 Karmas at a port in New Jersey. The Karmas were submerged in seawater during the storm, and let me remind you, electric types weak against water. The cars were obviously totaled, and no matter how you do the math, it was too difficult for the relatively new automaker to swallow a $30 million loss on top of everything else. Amid the crisis of bankruptcy, and citing differences with the executive management team, Henrik Fisker resigned from Fisker Automotive in 2013, and the Karma would later be renamed as the Revero and is somehow still being sold 12 years later by the Chinese company Wanxian. But old Henrik Fisker wasn't gonna let a hurricane get him down. In 2016, he started a new company, started sketching a new car, and named it after the very waters that had drowned his first one. Say hello to the Fisker Ocean, Henrik's first full EV. The pitch was basically, this time we're serious. But with adoption rates of EVs starting to tick up by the end of the 2010s, for once, it seemed like Henrik had lined things up at the right time. And it pretty much worked at first. By 2021, Fisker Inc. was valued at nearly $3 billion with backing from companies like Google. Henrik believed that his old manufacturing partner Valmet was one of the big problems during the first Fisker run. So a new partner would make things easier and less expensive. Magna, the well-respected Austrian company who assembles cars for everyone from Ford to BMW to Mercedes, was contracted to make the Ocean. Riding high on ocean waves, Fisker had big plans for his cheap, stylish EV and broadcast them loudly. No more hurricanes or financial crisis, his bad luck in the past, an open road in front of him. All he had to do was not drive off a cliff. But alas. Almost immediately, without anyone else to blame things on, Henrik started breaking promise after promise. He announced a custom Popemobile made by Fisker. Nope, never happened. I think Catholics call that blasphemy. Back in 2018, he said there would be a solid-state battery in the cars. Nope. Also untrue. They dropped the plan not long after it was proposed. In 2023, with the Ocean just barely out of pre-production, Fisker caused a stir by simultaneously announcing 3 ambitious new models at a splashy event. There was the Pear, which was supposed to be a low-cost EV that would appeal to the masses, and the Alaska, an electric pickup. And then there was Project Ronin, which Henrik claimed would have both 1,000 horsepower and the longest range of any production EV. None of those made it to reality, but at least they had the Ocean, right? After poor sales of the Ocean early on, Fisker switched to a dealership model in early 2024, but it still couldn't offload enough inventory. At the same time, Fisker had allegedly stopped paying the engineering firm that designed the new models, who eventually sued the automaker. Meanwhile, Fisker employees claimed they were being forced to work extra hours without extra pay, with one of them filing a proposed class action lawsuit, which wasn't even the first class action lawsuit Fisker had faced by that time. Oh, remember those solid-state batteries? Apparently, an employee brought a bunch of confidential documents related to their design from QuantumScape, which was backed by Volkswagen, over to their shiny new job at Fisker Inc. And the documents then had to be destroyed as part of another lawsuit settlement over stealing trade secrets. Oops. But all the lawsuits would be worth it if it meant Fisker had made the perfect car, which they didn't. The Ocean was plagued with quality, software, and build issues from the very beginning. There are almost as many horror stories about the Fisker Ocean as there are Fisker Ocean owners. Some of the complaints with the Ocean included power loss while driving, on the freaking highway, brake malfunctions, defective water pumps, broken key fobs, defective seat sensors, slow-moving infotainment interfaces, and even hoods flying up while driving and shattering the windshield. The automotive news and consumer advice outlet Edmunds purchased an early version of the Ocean for $70,000 to get the full ownership experience, and it barely functioned. Less than a year later, they sold it for $10,000. Other auto reviewers, one in particular, called it the worst car they had ever tested.
This is the Fisker Ocean. And I was trying to think if maybe there's a superlative to explain it. Like, this is the quirkiest car that I've used so far, but I think it's just the worst car I've ever tested.
Dozens of lemon law claims were made through the Ocean short run, though it's hard to find out how many customers got their money back. This is all kind of funny, but there is a serious question at the core. How on earth did a company with billions of dollars and esteemed backers manage to get literally everything wrong? Well, dig deep in the company history, and it seems like Fisker Inc. was doomed from the start. During the early run of the Ocean, Fisker Inc. didn't even have an accounting department to keep track of sales. That led to millions of dollars going missing. The co-founder of the company and Henrik's wife, Gita Gupta Fisker, was the CFO and COO of Fisker Inc. She wanted to straight up replace the essential customer service call line with an online chatbot, which for everything ChatGPT can do, that's not it. Without a number to call, customers were hitting up sales reps directly, or they were just stuck, on the side of the road in brand new cars with literally no one to call. Fisker eventually hired a company to handle the calls, but then they stopped paying them too, so no more call line. Gupta Fisker's cost-cutting controls also made their way into the spare parts bin. I should say the empty spare parts bin. Former employees said that there was resistance to the idea of stockpiling spare parts, which, I mean, there's a karma joke in there somewhere. When there were build quality issues with things like the door handles or the hood bolts, there wasn't anything in stock to replace or repair them quickly. And the fix? Use broken cars in Fisker's junkyard to repair customer cars. I'm serious, that happened. They were basically running their own pick and pull. And some former employees alleged prototype vehicles were parted out too. But clearly, cash was tight at Fisker HQ. They even threw a Hail Mary in trying to secure funding from auto giants like Nissan, but the money they needed to stay afloat never came, which is probably for the best given where Nissan's at now. In late 2024, Fisker Inc. filed for bankruptcy and was forced to cease operations. Thus marked the second time a company named Fisker went belly up. And even from beyond the grave, Fisker still causing problems for anyone that took a chance on them. Fisker Inc. still had about 3,000 cars in its inventory when it closed its doors, which were sold off to a company called American Lease that planned to lease them cheaply to rideshare drivers. They got a smoking deal, paying as little as $2,500 a car, but once again, buyer's remorse strikes another Ocean owner. In the middle of the deal, American Lease realized they couldn't offer any support on the remaining Oceans, so they had to pay Fisker an additional $2.5 million for tech supports. And we at The Drive reported late last year on Fisker asking owners to pay for the labor on mandatory safety recalls, which the NHTSA later slapped them for. That's right, the parts were free, but when the service center doesn't exist, you need to pay someone else to do the work. And you know, this is a relatively new problem with EVs because even cars from companies that are long gone, like Duesenberg or Oldsmobile or Saab, still use somewhat standard parts and techniques. In an era where the right to repair is being challenged every day, an EV from a company that doesn't exist anymore is going to be next to impossible to keep running for long. But if we've learned anything about Henrik Fisker, it's that he doesn't stay down, even if he deserves to. The end of 2024, as the dust was still settling from his latest collapse, Henrik quietly started a new venture called Gloggy Foods LLC. Do we know what that is? No. Do we want to? Not really. So was Fisker just the right idea from the wrong guy, or was it doomed from the very beginning? I think it's a mix. But what about you? It's been said that Fisker is our generation's DeLorean, and while I think that's almost unkind to Mr. DeLorean, I definitely see the parallels. The only thing missing here is a cocaine bust. Sometimes you have to leave a good idea as just that, an idea. All right, you get all that? If not, the replay button's right there. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.